Talk shoes. Recorded live.
Hello and welcome. Say hello, babe.
Hi.
She is the mom who spoke at the 20th anniversary of the Young Living Convention about autism. So we're glad to have her here today. We are going to give our FDA disclaimer first. Please note that everything that we are saying today is just to experience her testimony. So we're not claiming that any of this is diagnosing, prescribing, healing, curing, any of that. Okay, we want to be very respectful of the FDA first. Also, out of our nervousness today and our eagerness, our brains may get faster than our mouths, and so please forgive any mistakes that we may mix up oil bins, we may mix up words, something like that. So we ask that you forgive any mistakes that we make today. Okay. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Gary called you like a year ago, and then you got involved in the study. So we want to talk about that later. But right now, what was that like to be on stage in front of 9,000 people giving stories?
Actually, it was a rush and overwhelming all at the same time. You weren't there. Gary actually held my hand the entire time and pointed out that I had 18,000 eyes looking at me. So, I wish he hadn't done that. But it was amazing. It was amazing to be able to share our story with 9,000 people and know that that's going to go ripple into the communities, and we're not just changing the lives of the people in my own group and the people that have worked with me this past year with these oils and the Connect Kit. It's going to go global, and that's just really overwhelming and exciting, and I'm really excited about what this is all going to do. So, yeah, it was amazing.
Because you've already been helping the autism community, which thousands of people don't know that. So now you're a Young Living celebrity, and you're just getting information out to other people. So I'm grateful that Gary was holding your hand to help calm some of the nervousness, but also because I know he respects you for your willingness to do this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You got your hair did, you got your nails did, you got some new clothes, you got to take your daughter with you. What was that like?
I got to be a girl. How fun is that? It was fantastic. She loved it. She was my little shadow throughout most of the convention. And it was just really neat to spend that with her, like that me time. I mean, having a sibling who has classic autism, a lot of times she gets put back on the burner, and it's just the way that it is. And for her to have a Mom and Me week in Utah on the farm with Young Living was priceless. It was amazing.
Tell our listeners how old she is.
She just turned 15 right before convention, and she will be 10, in 2 weeks. So,
okay, and both girls are on a spectrum, so briefly tell us.
Yes, so both of them are on the spectrum. Is on the Asperger's side of the spectrum, and they went undiagnosed for a really long time. A lot of these girls, once they hit teenage years, because they haven't gotten the intervention that they need, it will start to manifest as anxiety and OCD and mood, depression, those types of things, and that was definitely the case. I think 2 years ago, we finally got the formal diagnosis, and it was the year that we homeschooled that we really saw that it wasn't just anxiety. There was something deeper happening, and because it didn't manifest the same way as the classic infantile autism did in our home, we missed it. So on the other side, was diagnosed at 4.5 with classic infantile autism. So what that means is, a lot of your listeners will know, but some might not know, that she was actually catatonic for the first 4 years of her life, maybe 80 to 90% of the time. It took us 4 years to get someone to listen to us and give us a formal diagnosis. And when we got that, we were told that she would never talk. We were told that she would never have meaningful relationships. We were told she would never have gainful employment as an adult. And then the worst thing that we were told was that we really had to go home and put our affairs in order because she was going to have to be institutionalized down the road. And that's why I'm here. I don't want another mom to feel the way that we felt. And it's profound for me to be able to go out and share our story and our success story and how we're using these oils from God to help both of my kids. And I said at the beginning of my chat, I wanted to get on the rooftops and tell everybody what was happening in my home and how we were doing with all this stuff. And I feel like between Gary inviting me to talk at convention and us, arranging this follow-up call, that's a good start. A lot of people are going to hear our message and are going to be able to go out now and know that this is a option for their kids as well. So that's how we got here.
Well, I'm grateful that you are one of those moms who's like, oh, no, you're not institutionalized one of my babies, because I have hope, that I have belief, and I know find the answers for her.
Well, I always laugh at, not really laugh, but we find it ironic because that was probably the best thing that they could have told me, because I wasn't going to be complacent. When you hear that, it puts a fire underneath you, and my determination was to prove that psychologist wrong, and we're doing it, Yeah, thank God I had the courage and the strength and the support to go against that prognosis.
And that's what I notice about a lot of autistic parents and caregivers and guardians is that fire. They do not stop finding answers for their kids. And
Absolutely. I always say that it's, autism moms, we're a new breed of moms. There's just something powerful about the connection that we have together and the fight and determination for our kids. It's amazing to watch.
All right, babe, you want to start from the beginning?
Sure. Okay. So I already said that, she was 4.5 when she got diagnosed with infantile classic autism. And, there really wasn't a lot of things out there like they are. Like, we knew that we wanted to address it naturally. The professionals really gave us no options other than traditional, ABA, speech, OT. And to me, that might give her some tools, but it wasn't really addressing it from a core cellular level. Like, we knew that there was more potential. And over the first 2 years, so like from when she was 4 to 6, we started doing some basic things and, diet. We cleaned up our diet. We removed high fructose corn syrup, artificial dyes, preservatives. We even went gluten-free, casein-free for a while. We've tinkered with it over the years. It's actually about 90% gluten-free right now, so we're almost there again. We did energy work, some Reiki, a lot of meditation, self-work, and stuff like that. And over those 2 years, we actually started seeing her come out of the catatonia, and she probably gained maybe 10 words during that time. So we were really happy because we're thinking she's not in the institution like they told us that she was going to be. She was actually in mainstream education in kindergarten with an aide, and we didn't know what her future was going to be, but we knew that it was optimistic because at least we were making slow and steady progress. And then I met a mom who said that there was a group of Central Ohio moms that were using essential oils with their kids on the autism spectrum. And honestly, my first thought was take the dollar sign off my kid's head. There's no way that is going, like, aromatherapy doesn't address autism. Like, there's no way. And I started to walk away and disengage, and I was also passing kidney stones at the same time. I had had for 9 months, and I had Percocet literally in my pocket, and I was going to go pop because I was in pain from the kidney stones. And God's funny. So as I was like disengaging, the kidney stone jabbed me, and I just had this thought, well, if you're saying that these oils can help autism, can you help me with kidney stone? And the girl's like, I don't know, let's look it up. And she pulled out a reference guide and she looked it up, handed me a bottle of eucalyptus. I probably looked at her like she was crazy. Like, there's no way this eucalyptus, like Percocet wasn't touching the pain. And I put the eucalyptus on. I thanked her. I walked away. An hour later, I was out of pain for the first time in 9 months. So I went back over to her and I asked her to entertain me, tell me a little bit more about these oils. Like, how did that work? Like, what else is in that bottle? And she was explaining everything to me. And then, long story short, I just got her business card and I went home and I started doing some research on my own. We had resolved the kidney stones within a couple weeks after having gone the medical route for 9 months. And that got my attention. And we went ahead and started using, we decided to use one oil, and that was all I was willing to do. We're just going to do one. And we decided to go with Brain Power, mainly because of the name. I kept on thinking, Brain Power, this guy must know what he's talking about. This must be supporting brain function. And, I started researching some of the oils that were in that blend and the chemical constituents, and some of them were talking about sesquiterpenes and monoterpenes and all these things that could clean out the nerve shafts and oxygenate the cells and stuff, and it just made sense to me. So we went ahead and started it, and within 5 days, she had a few spontaneous, expressive, functional words that she didn't have previously. She had fleeting eye contact and an increase in social referencing. I know that, one of the occupational therapists was like, what did you guys do over the weekend? She's different. And I'm like, well, how different? And she's like, well, she usually skirts the outside of the room, and she never engages in the circle time with all the other kids. It was a social skills group. And today, when we got started, she actually, unprompted, came over and sat at circle time and was interacting, parallel, playing with the other kids. And I'm like, and she's never done that before? And they're like, no, she's never done that before. I'm like, wow. I'm like, well, what did you do? I'm like, nothing. I didn't do it. I wasn't going to tell anybody what we were doing, which is so funny. So then we had a speech therapist do the same thing. She had a couple words. And at that point, my husband and I were like, okay, 90 days. We're going to give it 90 days. Maybe this is a coincidence. Maybe she actually was going to do this even if we hadn't started that oil 5 days ago. So we wanted to commit to at least 90 days to see what was going to happen. And long story short, that was 3.5 years ago. And we've had profound, it's going to make me cry, results. So over the next 2 years, we started using more than just Brain Power. We started researching. We were using the EODR and the Integrative Medical the Essential Oil Guide that Gary wrote, and we were looking up the chemical constituents and what they did, and trying to figure out what oils were supporting what body systems. And over time, we kind of developed our own protocol, separate ones for each kid. So people ask me all the time, your protocol for the kids, and I'm like, I can't give it to you. Everybody is so different. I don't want to be haphazard in telling you that this list of oils is going to go do exactly what it's done in my home. And one of the things that I took home from convention this year was Gary talking about how single blends have, specific frequencies and constituents in it. But when we're using a blend, we have a variety of oils, and we have more arsenal to go in and support the body. So in a blend, my child might need this constituent and your child might need that one. So that kind of makes it better, which is why I'm really excited about this new collection that we're going to be talking about in a little bit. But back to her story. We started using different oils for different systems of the body, and we had profound results. She went from, speaking maybe 10 words to within the next 2 years, she was saying 2 to 3 words statements, and we would have like a 2 or 3 sentence, in quotation sentence, interaction. Her sensory issues were well on their way to being controlled. She was playing hide and seek and socializing with all of her little friends and was developing friendships. This is a child who wasn't supposed to have meaningful relationships, and doing like all these things that they told us that she wasn't going to do. So a year ago, maybe a little bit more than a year ago, Young Living is a really big company, but it really isn't. It's a tight-knit company, and I think they are a good example of that. We're not in the same downline. We met on Facebook, social media, and over the last, how long we've known each other, 3 years maybe, we've developed this friendship, and that's what happens in Young Living. Through that, Gary Young and Mary had heard about some of the things that we were doing in our home with autism, and I won't forget it. It was a Thursday night, and Gary called me, and I about fell over. I'm thinking, here I am, this Midwest autism mom, I'm like a drop in the bucket in this company, and this founder, this brilliant CEO, is reaching out to me and asking me, what do you need for the autism community? What do you need for, we've heard about this. It's been on my radar. How can I help you? And I said, Gary, help me, and we can take that information and we can change the autism community as a whole. Help me with her, and let's take this information and then go empower other autism moms. I don't want other autism moms feeling the way that I felt 4 years ago. And that's what we've done this past year. This past year has been amazing. Gary made it really easy for me. I didn't have to research my oils anymore. He made these blends, and we started using them, and profound results happened. So I'm thinking, let me give you guys a couple examples so you can hear how this happened over the year. Within 3 months of starting the new oil, which is the Reconnect blend that's in this kit that Eric can talk about, we were walking out of the school building. Now, this is a child who had only said 2 or 3 word statements up until this time. And we were walking to my car, and she stopped me, and she started pointing to the people on the sidewalk, all the moms and the kids are going to their cars and their buses. And she's like, Mom, look, their mouth talks or works, their mouth works, his mouth works, her mouth works. And she's pointing to all these people that are talking and telling me how their mouths are working. And she looked at me and she goes, my mouth works now too. I'm a genius, Mom, I'm a genius. And that told me that she had the words inside her all the time. She knew what she wanted to express, and she couldn't figure out how to get it out. She thought her mouth was broken. And within 3 months of using this blend, she was able to express that. She was able to start stringing longer words together and having conversations. And we can lay in bed at night a year later, and we can have a 30-minute conversation about our day, or we can have a 20-minute conversation about what we're going to do tomorrow, and it's functional and it's expressive. No more scripting. And she's actually telling me expressively, functionally what is going on. And to me, that is profound. This is a child who we were told at, age 4.5 would never talk. And then at age 6, she only had, 10 words that, mommy, milk, up, bed, those types of words. It's profound. I'm trying to think of what else I want to tell you guys about that. Another time we were sitting on the couch, and she looked at me and she said, do you hear that? And I listened, and I'm like, hear what? And she goes, listen. And I'm like, it was deafening quiet. It was so quiet, I didn't hear anything. And I looked at her, and I had this oral stem where she would constantly go, it was, I'm sure it was regulating, but it was constant, and it would be this really high pitch, and almost like a frequency, like a radio static. And I looked at her, and she goes, it's gone. And I'm like, what happened? She goes, it's gone. The oil, it's gone, Mom, it's gone. And she gave me this smile, like she knew whatever it was, that it was gone. So it was pretty profound. So over the past year, obviously we've been using the oils with her. I mean, we've done everything. She is doing everything that were told that she wouldn't do, and more. And I know that the speech is still delayed, and she has a long way to go with the speech, but holy cow, it's miraculous. It's amazing. So that was our journey. How about that?
To summarize real fast, give us a list of the autism symptoms that she had.
It was classic. So, like I said, she was nonverbal. At 5 months, we actually thought that she was deaf. I was nursing her, and she wouldn't make eye contact. And that was like our first signal symptom, that something was wrong. And I remember calling the pediatrician the next day crying, I think the baby's deaf. And he's like, oh, your kids are 5 years apart. You're just a new mom again. You're just being oversensitive. Get through the holiday. It was on Christmas. Get through the holiday. Contact us, after that, and we'll see what happens. And I called them back after Christmas, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, every now and then it looks like she hears us, but then she doesn't. Like, I really feel like we need to come in and get her tested. I mean, give it 6 more months. And then we call and go, she's almost a year and she's not playing with her sister. Like 1-year-olds play, they do peekaboo, they do, these little things that she's not doing any of that. It's almost like she's in her own world. Could it be autism? No, autism's a boy's disorder. Again, you're just being, super sensitive. And then, by, maybe 14 months, she has no words, something's got to be happening. And they're like, no, some kids just don't talk to their sticks. Give it time. It was just crazy. So she had the speech delay. She had the catatonia where she was like in her own world, the fog. She had no social referencing at all. Her sensory issues were epic. They were severe. I couldn't give her a bath. When she would cry, her tears would hurt her. She was naked up until, we started this new oil this past a year ago, so until she was 9, because the clothes would hurt her skin. And if we went out in the community, she'd leave them on. But the minute we got in the car, she would be naked within a second because the clothing would actually hurt her skin. I couldn't go in the rain, because the rain would, she thought that I was in pain, and she would scream and have these epic meltdowns because she was convinced that the rain felt on my skin the same way it felt on hers. I mean, if you go down to the classic autism symptoms, like she fit the bill for like every single one of them. So yeah, we watched the Temple Grandin movie. I don't know if everybody's seen that, but like we watched it and we're like, that was us. Like that story, like everything that she was doing in her early childhood was classic to what she was doing or not doing.
Okay, digestive or elimination issues?
Yes, severe constipation. She had the extended belly where she looked like a little Buddha. Missed many days of preschool, kindergarten because of constipation. Would sit on the toilet for what seemed like hours crying because she couldn't eliminate. There was no diarrhea. It was mostly constipation, which was the second thing we addressed once we started using the brain power and started seeing some cognition and speech and stuff develop. My first thought was, we need to address the gut. If we have a healthy gut, that's going to be an arsenal for everything else. And so we started addressing the gut issues pretty early on with handling.
Any sleep issues?
How did I forget that? You know that was huge. Yes, we've had sleep issues. I've gone days without sleep because she's gone days without sleep. She would be up till 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, sometimes like during the day, and she would be scripting, and she would be like repeating these cartoons. And if you interrupted the cartoon because you were trying to get her to be quiet, because if you're quiet and you close your eyes, you're going to sleep, she couldn't pick up where she left off. She had to start back from the beginning of the cartoon and how to go through the whole thing. And then when she got done with that cartoon, she would start scripting another cartoon. And it was constant all night, thrashing. There was a lot of crying. We did a lot of deep pressure compression and some brushing stuff with that stuff as well. She even has more recently, the sleep is, we'll find a combination of oils, and it'll work for maybe like a week or two, and then it'll start to regress. So then we'll change the oils up to another combination, and it'll work really good for a couple weeks, and then it'll start to regress. And what we found is that we just need to keep on rotating what we're doing, but I'm really optimistic with the new blend, Sleepy Eyes, and it's the first blend oil ever. It's like she puts up her feet for me to put it on. In fact, last night she was having a hard time sleeping, and she said, I just can't sleep. And she actually said, go get me the sleepy oil. And I'm like, you want me to put that on you? And she's like, yes. Put it on my feet and then put it on my pillow so I can smell it. Like, are you kidding me? She's self-administering. I mean, that's just epic. Yeah. What else?
Was one with pica?
Oh, God. Pica. Pica was horrible. We've ended up in the ER multiple times for it. So people who are listening don't know what pica is. It is actually a nutritional deficiency because a lot of these kids only eat like 3 or 4, 5, 6 food items. They're malnourished, and that was definitely the case with Fink. She lived on French fries, popcorn, and cookies. Like that was the only thing I could get into her, and we kept on going, poison her or feed her, poison her or feed her. You know, like it was so difficult because we couldn't get her to try anything else. And over the years, she started, I think when she was, I'm thinking back, it was probably like 2.5, 3. She started doing this where she would eat paper. She would chew paint off the wall. She would eat toilet paper string. She would mouth rocks. She would go outside and start licking the stop sign that's on the corner of the street that we live on. She would eat plastic. We ended up in the ER once because we thought, I think she ate a checker, not a full-size checker, but it was like a small travel checker that she was mouthing and ate. She would eat plastic bags. And then, I'm trying to think, I can't remember how long ago it was. It was maybe 3 years ago, so she may have been 7. And she started eating metal. And her sister noticed that she was taking a pencil and she was jimmying off the metal that keeps the eraser on, and she was chewing it up and swallowing it. She has scars all over the inside of her mouth from that. And at that time, we're going, this is a medical emergency. Like, if this metal goes into her, like, it's medical. Like, we can't do this on our own anymore. And we took her to a biomed doctor, a doctor who looks at more of the nutrition aspect of the biological aspect of autism. And they wanted to run, I think it totaled like $35,000 to $4,000 of tests. And we were at the point where my husband and I are looking at each other going, okay, we can afford that, but then that exhausts all of our means. And what do we do? Like, once they figure out what it is and what the deficiency is and what she needs, how are we going to be able to afford the supplements to address this, And it was like 3 days of this like painful, like trying to figure out, like, we need this kid to stop eating metal. The doctor won't do anything and put her on anything until we take these tests. It's a medical emergency. We have to stop this behavior now. And my sponsor said, are you going to try the Ningxia Red? Ningxia Red's nutritional whole wolfberry fruit puree that Young Living has. It's like really dense in nutrition. And I'm like, there's no way that even like a year and a half into, like, I've seen what the oils are doing for autism. I've seen what they've done for other things in our home. But I'm going, there's no way that this is going to address this. There's no way. And she's like, just try 1 bottle. I'm like, fine. I overnighted 1 bottle. We gave, I believe, 4 ounces the first day. Within 24 hours, she brought me a pencil. She had eaten the eraser, but the metal was still on it. She put it down on the bed next to me, and she said, yucky, no more. And I was like, holy cow. So what I know in my research is that if our iron and our zinc levels are at normal, what am I trying to say? If they're balanced, if they're where they're supposed to be in the body. If we go to take a zinc or an iron supplement, it'll taste nasty. You can taste the metal in your mouth. But if our body is deficient in it, it doesn't taste bad. And that's when that's a really good way, just like, everybody will tell you, go take the supplement and you can figure out whether or not you need it. And I was thinking to myself, oh my God, could that 4 ounces have possibly balanced her minerals and everything else that she's deficient in like that fast? She didn't eat metal the entire week or any of the pica. It was gone. But we only bought 1 bottle because remember, I didn't think it was going to work. And when we ran out, like the next day, she was eating metal and outside licking the stop sign again. And I'm like, holy crap. So we ordered another bottle. Same thing happened within 24 hours of putting her back on it. All the symptoms of pica went away. Ran out of that one too because I remember I'm thinking it's a fluke. There's no way. And all those symptoms went away. So now we just have it on our auto ship. We don't run out. If we do, I'm putting out a shout out to my local peeps. Anybody have anything to can borrow until we get ours back because it is the only thing that we have found to address the pica. It's scary. If you have a kid with pica, like it's aside the fleeing was like fleeing and pica were like the most dangerous and scary experiences that we've had with autism. Like those are the things that kept me up at night. Those were the things that were terrifying. Yeah.
Now, Ningxia Red has a preservative in there that you were concerned about at one time.
I was. Do you remember that? Which is why we wouldn't do it. Like, sponsors keep been going, just try it. And I'm like, it's got potassium sorbate in it. There's no way I'm putting that in my kids, because with a naturopathic doctor that we had been working with, she was the one who pointed out my oldest daughter had aggression, and she would be fine one minute, and then it was like bipolar. Like, it was all of a sudden she would be this little demon child, and we didn't know, like, where is this coming from? And she was like, take the potassium sorbate out of your diet. In my research in my clinic, we've associated potassium sorbate with aggression. They did an informal study at a prison. I can't remember what prison it was, but they took the potassium sorbate out of the prisoners' diet, and they had compliance and all this really good behavior for the time that they did that. So that was really impressive. So we went ahead and we did it. And she was like a different kid. Like, she was pleasant and she was nice, and she stopped hitting and she stopped pinching her sister. And so we just completely got it out of our home. Like, we just can't have that preservative in our home. And if she would go to school, and I could tell when she came home if she was aggressive or angry or mean, I'd be like, did you eat something that Mommy didn't pack? And she'd be like, oh yeah, it was Johnny's birthday party and they brought in cupcakes. And I'm like, dang it, I know that's what it is. Okay, be patient. Within 12 hours, it'll start getting out of her system. It should be fine. So that's just the way that it was. We were just like, we're just not going to have that preservative in our home. And when I saw that it was on the Nature Red, I was like, there's no way I'm not even going to attempt to put that in our kid. But at the point when the eating the metal happened, I'm like, okay, we'll try it. And we actually try it as well. And she didn't have the aggression. And my husband's like, are you kidding me? Like, how? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, it's clearly stated that it's in there. And I'm like, watch her. And nothing. So finally, like, my assumption was there was either so much nutrition and goodness in this product that it was countering the effects of the preservatives, or Young Living put the minimum amount possible to stabilize the product, and maybe it just wasn't a lot in it and it wasn't affecting her, but I don't know, like, I kept thinking it's got to be something else. But then I also found out, like, down the road that Young Living's not using the synthetic potassium sorbate. Like, they're using more, when I look at
It is coming from a plant source.
right, it's coming from a plant source and not a synthetic. So it's not a chemical preservative, it's a plant source. So I think that it's actually probably all three things: that it's the dense nutrition, it's the source of the potassium sorbate, and it's also they put the minimum amount to allow it to go on the market. Like, they actually added tiny bit to stabilize it. So yeah, so now I'm like, okay, you know what? I felt the same way you guys do. I've done my research, and now I've observed it in my home, and I'm 100% comfortable putting that in my children now. So isn't that amazing?
And as you guys do your research and you start collecting autism stories and start seeing some of the similarities, like I said before, there's not a one-size-fits-all program or protocol. So you're going to have to do trial and error for your child. But you will have a bunch of similarities. And because pica is a nutritional deficiency, we are seeing consistency with Nature Red in getting rid of pica.
Right. As well with the oils, with anything that you're using, you know, that consistency daily. I don't care what you're using, just use it every day, you know, it's like, so the body can do what it needs to do. Like, don't go apply oils 1 or 2 times and go, it didn't work. It doesn't work that way. You know, we had results really early, like within 5 days, but that doesn't mean you are, because your kid's history and biology and all that stuff is different than my kids. Your body might need something different than what our kids needed.
Okay. You talked a little bit about anxiety. Does that OCD?
Definitely. Very different than OCD. So OCD was more the classic OCD that you think of, like her bedroom had to be spick and span. Everything had to be placed a certain way. She could only sit at a certain table or chair at the kitchen table. If we sat in her chair, she would flip out. We actually tease her about, like, Sheldon Cooper, Big Bang Theory. Like, that was her OCD, was very similar to what his character exhibits on that show. First, it was more of the routines. Like, when we would go to the store, we would have to walk the exact same path every single time. Like, we couldn't run in and get a watermelon and run out. Like, we would have to go in, walk the path that we normally walk, even all the way through the toy section, the cosmetics and everything else, and do that. If we tried to veer off, there was an epic meltdown. Have her day spelled out, that routine thing. And if we didn't prep her for a change in the routine, there was a meltdown. Or if the teachers didn't tell her that they were going to have a change in the routine of the day and they didn't prep her ahead of time, she couldn't handle that change in structure. So I think that the two, they both have OCD and they both have ritualistic behavior, but it was manifested very different in both of them, which makes it fun for Mom. And I know she will tell you that Rutavala and Ninja Red are like her, don't ever be without those two products, Mom. Those are what helps me control the anxiety and the OCD that she's having. Of course, it wasn't until we started the Reconnect blend that flipped for her. I think, I can't remember how long it was into it. It was pretty quick into using that oil. I remember walking into the store halfway through realizing that we weren't walking on the same path. And I thought it was a fluke. The next time I took her to the store, we walked on another path. And I'm like, holy cow, it's got to be this oil. That's the only thing that we changed was this oil Gary sent us. And it has been consistently like that. We no longer had to really map out the day. I mean, we still do it, but not to the degree that we've had to do it. She goes with the flow a lot more readily than she had in the past.
Okay, for our listeners today, you're hearing a lot of the changes that is made using and living essential oils, but you're not hearing the amounts and you're not hearing where to put them.
Mm-hmm.
And, okay.
So,
yeah, Gary called you about a year ago, and you were working with what is now called the Reconnect blend, and then also some of your friends in the autism community. So we're going to start with your story, and then later on we've got some testimonials from the other people in your area who also
right
in this study.
Right. So actually Gary came to visit us. He came to Ohio in, I want to say June or July last year, and did a seminar for us. And then we met with him afterwards, and just, you had to be there. I mean, just story, you could just see it hit his heart, and I remember him looking at me and going, this has been on my radar. She is here for a reason and is going to inspire this. We need to do something about this. And he went home and formulated a blend, sent it to me. I had it in a couple of days after, the meeting, and we started using it right away on both of the girls, as well as multiple moms that were in my group. So everybody that was using the original blend that we got was actively already using essential oils in my group. So, in my head, I'm going, did that skew anything? Because, we've already had a lot of work that we've done prior, but one of the things we've asked everybody to do was get off all your oils. Take your kid off of everything, including your supplements, and I just want you to use this one blend, and I want you to track any progress, any regression, anything different that you see, I want you to document. And we had a data sheet, and we collected all that information. So over that first phase is when we started seeing huge results. It was fast. So I started using the oil in July. In August, I went to Silver Club and saw Gary at the Silver Club, and, of course, asking me, how did it go? And I'm like, in a month, we have seen epic results, and not only with my kids, but with everybody in my group. So then we continued using those oils. So then we got more oils, and we started using those some more, and we've just been using them consistently over the past year. You guys heard the results that we've had. So the sensory issues, even though that they were improving today, they're resolved. She doesn't have any sensory issues. So this is a child who was naked for the first 9 years of her life and who is wearing clothes and doesn't mind it. She's taking a bath. We went swimming with the dolphins in March. This was a kid who couldn't get splashed. I mean, there was definitely a lot of splashing when we were doing that, which was epic in our world. Her language, again, exploded. She stopped fleeing. That's really bizarre. She stopped fleeing. How would the oils affect that? And I can't help wonder, there's got to be a connection, because maybe it's the impulsivity of the fleeing. Like there's no filter on thinking about the consequences and thinking it through. And she just stopped fleeing. And I remember sitting in the kitchen when she was out playing in the backyard, and I'm going, oh, my God, my child's playing outside by herself. Like, that's profound. That's profound. And she's doing it now. And, of course, I'm standing at windows and doors, and I'm watching her, and she's not fleeing. Like, the sleep, we've been working on the sleep. That was the hardest one. Gary's asked us to look at some other lifestyle things that may be influencing some of the things that we're doing with the sleep cycle, and we're slowly integrating those, and it's getting better. Since she's been on the Sleepy Eyes, which is the new oil, and the Reconnect, it's also in the Kids Sense kit, she's doing really well with her sleep, so I'm knocking on wood that this is resolving that issue.
You were only testing the Reconnect blend, what is now the Reconnect blend. You didn't know what was, you didn't know anything about it, the bottle of letter A.
Yeah, I didn't have the ingredients, and even the moms that were in the field study, the pilot, were asking me, what's in it? And I'm like, I don't know. I can smell it, and I got a pretty good nose, and I can tell you what I think is in it, but there's no way for me to tell. I don't know. Gary doesn't want me to know what's in there because we don't want to influence what we're seeing. So if I'm thinking that there's rutavala in it, I don't want it to skew our reaction to the anxiety piece. If I think it's Melissa's in it, and I don't want it to skew what's happening with the speech, so I didn't know anything. All I had was this plain bottle that was sent to me, and trusted him and started using it, as well as the moms in my group. And then in April, I got another batch of oils from Gary, same blend, and I went out and I found new moms who hadn't been using the oils at all. They hadn't even been introduced to Young Living. And we asked them, we have this blend. It came from the company. This is my story. Would you be willing to try that on your child and give me any feedback, positive or negative, like whatever you see? And we got a handful of moms willing to do that, and blew me away. And I think that you have a couple of the testimonies with these moms who were skeptical, and they couldn't comprehend how, they don't even know how essential oils work. They don't know what we know because we've been in the company and we've been, researching these for, 4 years, or probably a lot more for you. They don't have the information that we have. All they knew was I was an autism mom. They heard me speak at an event, and they were willing to try anything. They were at their last rope. And they trusted me enough to go, okay, we'll try it. We'll try anything. We're at the point where we don't have a choice. We have to intervene with something because what we're doing isn't working. And it was profound. These testimonies are why I'm so verbal, and why I ended up on that stage in front of so many people, and why we're having this conversation, because it's life-changing. It's not just what's happening in my home. It's across the board what's happening in other people's homes.
The thing that we wanted to clarify earlier is that the blend, the Reconnect blend that was given to experiment with, was not the Sleepy Eyes. So anything that she comments now about better quality of sleep is now that she's obtained that oil since leaving convention. So, her sleep still was affected during that year that she was working with Reconnect. Right.
And the story that you're going to read now is the mom was given a bottle of Reconnect, which is in the Reconnect collection.
Okay, this talking about her daughter. Have you ever had that moment when you realized that you have been holding your breath, and you finally take that breath, but you feel like you can't really trust yourself to remember to breathe, which of course is an involuntary function, but you still just can't trust it. So you obsess over every inhale and exhale. Well, that is our story. In the summer of 2001, we welcomed our second child to our lives. His big sister was over the moon excited to meet him, and so were we. Our family seemed complete. A little girl and a little boy, just over a year apart. I was just about 6 weeks old when I began feeling overtired and sluggish. Of course, I'm the mother of a young family, and that's what happens. When it didn't go away, I decided to go to the doctor for a checkup and routine blood work, thinking that maybe my iron levels were low. Later that day, I received a call from the lab congratulating me. I'm pregnant! Again! Not only were we surprised and in shock, but so was my body. It didn't seem quite ready to be pregnant again. While my husband and I were trying to wrap our heads around this, I was dragging through my days, and I have to say that I had very few good days with this pregnancy. At almost 26 weeks, my water broke. We were terrified, and 15 miles away from my doctor and hospital. We made it to the hospital on that Saturday afternoon, and they were able to hold her off delivery until Monday. After nearly 3 days, she couldn't wait any longer, and at 1:35 p.m. on February 11th, 2002, we met our baby. She was born 1 pound 15 ounces, but she was very fragile as the cord had been wrapped around her neck 4 times, and with minimal amniotic fluid to cushion the force of the contractions, she was in trouble. By the time she made it to the NICU, she was under 1 pound. For the next 2.5 months, we held our breath. With all the complications that she had due to her prematurity, miraculously, she had no signs of permanent damage, and she seemed to be thriving. The NICU doctor had informed us that developmentally, she may be behind by a few months, but would eventually catch up, and by age 2, she did. Although still small for her age, she continues to prove to us how strong she is, and there isn't anything that she can't do if she puts her mind to it. We always tell her that she may be mini, but she's mighty. This mindset proves to be important for her ability to face the multitude of adversity that lay ahead for her. The specialists at the hospital also had spoken to us about the possibilities of her showing signs of ADD, ADHD, cerebral palsy, learning disabilities, and mental or emotional disorders. She was almost 3, and she was perfect. No worries. We had beaten the odds. Exhale. And she turned 4, and we enrolled her in preschool. Every mommy knows the anxiety that we experience sending our babies off without us, and we know that it can be equally as hard on our children. At first, we chalked it up to the fact that it had never really been away from me because I own a daycare, and I have been blessed to be home with her up until now. The separation anxiety that she seemed to be experiencing was overwhelming, to say the least. It was heartbreaking. Slowly, we worked through it, but every day was a struggle, and every day we had to start over. Instead of progressing and working through the anxiety, it only seemed to get worse. Any event that she would look forward to, such as dressing up for Halloween, or going to the zoo, or a trip to see her grandparents in Cincinnati, would cause a meltdown. When it would come time to get ready, it would start. Her clothes seemed to be made of fire, and she would scream and pull them off. If a brush touched her hair, she would almost convulse, and all the while punching and yelling with this guttural, blood-curdling, throat-burning scream. Who was she? Her face would change, and I didn't recognize her. There was no calming her down or rationalizing. Once the episode started, no one had control over her when it would stop, not even her. It became so emotionally paralyzing that she would barely leave the house. Fast forward to age 7. It came to the point that when she was having an episode, it was becoming increasingly violent towards me, my husband, and especially her older sister. She would break or try to destroy anything in her path, and when it was over, she was physically exhausted, and sometimes she couldn't remember what happened. She would become almost giddy afterwards and be almost in a manic, euphoric state. We would talk to her teachers and try to give them some insight on her behavior patterns at home in an effort to gain some perspective, but always their response is that they had never seen that side of her and can't believe we are speaking about the same child. She is a straight A-plus student, not just an A student, and it seems to be effortless for her. Seems to be is the operative phrase here. Because you see, she also suffers from extreme OCD and is an unrelenting perfectionist. Unless you were talking about her brushing her hair or changing her clothes, I know it makes no sense to me either. We finally decided to take her to a pediatric psychologist and then a psychiatrist. Of course, their mainstream form of treatment consists of drugs first, a little therapy, a little higher dose of more drugs, 5-minute session with a doctor every month, and let's just stop this medicine and start her on this new and different drug. Ugh. So for the next 2.5 years, we held our breath. When she was 10 and the doctor had changed her medication again, she was becoming depressed and acting out in ways that we hadn't seen before. What did we expect? She had been on 7 different medications by this point. This time she tried to cut herself. Her daddy grabbed the knife from her, and we all collapsed to the floor together and held each other and sobbed for what seemed like forever. I was crying for the daughter that I thought I was losing, and I knew that we were not equipped to handle any episodes of this magnitude. The next day, we had to admit her to the Children's Hospital in the psychiatric ward. That was the hardest thing I have ever done as a parent. I was determined to make changes, whatever it took. We ended up changing doctors, and he has been a godsend. We changed her medications, but with the end goal in mind to get her off of the synthetic drugs and onto natural supplements instead, but it is a process. Ms. 12, and she is still struggling. She seems so full of anger, like a powder keg waiting for a spark. I have tried to explain her outburst to friends, but it is quite the same as witnessing it. As my friend would find out, one morning before school, and I were battling as usual, because I asked to brush her hair, and I was trying to pull it into a ponytail. She was screaming and hollering obscenities at me, and had come in and heard her. I didn't know until later how much that had affected my friend. Just weeks before, I had attended a special event that had organized where the keynote speaker was. I was so touched by her story, and I sat with tears in my eyes as she spoke because I knew she gets it. Little did I know how much that event would touch our lives. I had recently been introduced to Young Living oils by Carrie and was using them at home with my family. I had the chance to meet and speak with and briefly explain my daughter's issues. It was then that I first heard about the Mommy Drive-By. She gave me some valuable information about the oil that worked for her, Bedivere. I put it on my list right away and couldn't wait for it to be back in stock. In the meantime, I was using Peace and Calming and Valor and Joy on a regular basis with my family when she would let me. After to witness the episode up close and personal, she called to ask if she could stop by that evening to talk to me. I couldn't even tell you how I felt when she revealed the reason for her visit. She had spoken to and wanted to offer the Reconnect blend for us to use in the trial. God works in mysterious ways for sure. For as much as I wanted to keep meltdowns behind closed doors, it was because we witnessed it that our guardian angels were revealed. We began using it right away along with Valor. I won't lie. Sometimes she still refuses to put it on when she is in the height of an outburst. But when she applies it regularly, dare I say, it works. If I wasn't sure before, I can tell you this. It was the last week of school, and my little OCD perfectionist had no less than 5 big assignments due. I made sure that she applied her oils every morning after school that week, and she got through those projects like a pro. I don't think I could have done it. The one time that we had a huge, full-blown episode, I was completely discouraged and deflated until I realized that she hadn't applied the oils for the past 2 days. I had left it up to her to do on her own. That was it. We got back on track, and we have been steady ever since. She is completely off all medications and only taking natural supplements and using the oils regularly. Her life, our life, is changing for the better, and I feel that Young Living has had a significant impact on that. Now, I'm not saying that things are perfect. She's definitely still a work in progress, but aren't we all? But now, we can breathe. Are you crying?
I am. Profound. So this is a mom that I met in April. I went to autism. It was an autism event where we had a whole bunch of different autism service people sharing what they were doing and how different things that were available in the community. And was in the audience, and I was asked to be the keynote speaker, and we shared our autism story, the one that you guys heard earlier, and what we were doing. And I remember coming up to me afterwards, and you could see the desperation in her eyes, and this was before she started the reconnect. And when she talked about the mommy drive-by, it was because I told her that the only thing that we had had up until that point was Bedivere. And what I did was I put it on a roller ball because it's really thick. And it was the only thing that we could find that worked for her epic meltdowns. And within 20 seconds of applying it, she would just seem to absolutely melt. And it was the only thing that I could think of to tell this mom, this is what has worked for us. I don't know what's going to work for us. I really don't. But try it. You have the access to the oils now, just go figure this out. And it was shortly after that is the episode. And again, unless you are an autism mom, even not even then, because nobody knows, what happens behind our closed doors or when people leave. It's the moms are overwhelmed. We're scared for our kids. We don't have the tools. No one's giving us the tools to appropriately help our kids. And when I saw that, I had given, 2 bottles, and I'm like, go find 2 people in your community that you think would be open to trying this. I need to find out if this is just a fluke with our kids, because our kids have already been on the oils, And I'm like, I'm optimistic. I'm really excited. I'm seeing what I'm seeing, and I just got to know. And when she sent me this testimony, how do you put a price on that? It is profound. This kid's life, her whole family's life. Can you imagine what is happening behind their closed doors and nobody sees it? And the amount of stress, the siblings, these little kids witnessing this and not knowing how scared they are. It's profound. That's the only word I can find. It's profound. Life-changing.
And the results happen quickly.
They did. She only used it for, I think she said, a week or 2. She sent me this email or this testimony within 2 weeks of starting the blend. So it was rather quickly. In fact, she emailed me the other night and said, the reconnection kit is out of stock. What do we do? And I'm like, don't worry about it. I got you covered. I will help you until you can get the whole kit into your home. So, this is a mom who recognizes that this blend has saved her kid's life. And it's changing her entire family's life. And she's like, I'll never be without this oil. My daughter needs it.
Okay, so let's talk about what's in Reconnect, and let's talk about why it works.
Let me pull it up. Whew. I'm going to breathe for a minute. Okay. So Reconnect is a blend, and it has, I think, 16 different oils in it. And when I spoke with Gary recently, he said that he had diluted it because a lot of our kids will have, despite, it doesn't matter what you think triggers autism, whether it's environmental, genetics, vaccines, whatever your perspective is on that. The bottom line is our kids are still full of toxins, which I think is contributing to that. And it doesn't matter where those toxins came from. It could be our food. It could be pollution. And when we start using oils, sometimes our kids will have a detox response and the body's trying to purge these toxins. And he really wanted a blend that would be gentle and powerful at the same time. So it has coconut oil and almond oil in it, not diluting, but as a carrier oil in the blend. So those are the first 2 ingredients. And then you may have to help me with this. It also has sacred frankincense, the bergamot, myrrh. It has lavender, geranium, cedarwood, royal Hawaiian sandalwood, which on the sidebar, they distilled for the first time at Silver Club. And I'm going to tell you guys, it is the most amazing aroma. Like when it was wafting from the distillery, like I didn't want to wash my jacket. It was amazing. Lang Lang, cedarwood, rosewood, melissa, Idaho blue spruce, black spruce, hyssop, and rose. So some of the significant ones that really pop out at me is like the Melissa, the Rose, the Royal Hawaiian Sandalwood. Like these are really high vibrational, potent, powerful oils in this blend. The whole entire blend synergistically is amazing. So that's in the Reconnect. This is the blend that I used, or this is the oil that you've heard me talk about with my daughters.
One more oil is blue cypress, and then pronounced it hyssop, so that is actually hyssop for us Southerners.
I know. I'm like, sometimes I'm like, oh, is that how you pronounce that? That's so funny. Thank you. Yeah.
What I think is amazing is that because it is diluted to reduce some of the Herxheimer's effects, is that she got results like immediately with the diluted oil.
I know. Mm-hmm. We all did. Like most of the parents who used it saw immediate responses.
Okay. What I'm also noticing is in the autism community, when you guys are collecting autism stories and those impressions and those inklings that, hey, I think this oil is going to work or this blend is going to work for my child, so I'm going to buy it and try it out, is that we are spending a lot of money on single oils.
We are.
Like Gary said earlier, is that when you have several singles together and you have that synergy working together as an arsenal, you know, what I'm kind of going to be bold here and saying, and it's not necessarily true, but just like you said, if my child has taken this oil out of the blend or this constituent out of the blend, and Reconnect is working for us, but somebody else's child is taking a different constituent or a different oil out of that blend working, then my guess is that Reconnect is going to work for more people in the broader spectrum than spending money on different single oils and just trying and see if it works for your child. And, you know, that trial and error that is so frustrating, especially budget-wise, when we've spent already thousands of dollars in other modalities to try to find something that works for your child.
I agree with that, and I think that's a really, really good point, because a lot of the times when I tell parents it's trial and error, they look at me like, are you kidding me? Like, they're so used to having someone tell them, do X, Y, Z, and then all of a sudden we come around and we say, this is working for our kids, you ought to try it, but you know what? We don't know exactly what's going to work for your kid. You know, this is what worked for mine, and I can kind of give you some guidance about what we did, but you got to go trial and error, and you're going to have to make an investment. And I think that that's a good point, that with this blend, like with all the oils, and think about all the chemical constituents that are present, like it takes the guesswork out. You know what? This is going to be my number one. Try this, you know. Start here. This is where we need to start from now on. I agree.
What I thought was so cute for you guys that aren't friends on Facebook, in the past 12 months we heard, so, it was epic, you know, and she figured out something with speech, epic, anxiety, epic, sensory issues, epic, social preferencing, epic, everything was so epic. And I don't get to the point where I would type into her status, hey, this is your new normal.
I know, you did. And, oh my gosh. Amazing. It's been an epic year. I told Gary, I'm like, it was the year of milestones. But there's no other way to describe the year that we've had. And people would read my statuses on Facebook and they would go, so what are you using? And I'm like, stay tuned. Like, what are you using now? Stay tuned. So you don't have to stay tuned anymore. This is what we were using. We were using Reconnect for a whole year. So if people who are sitting watching what, you know, my Facebook friends, what was happening, this is it. Like, I'm going to go off rooftops now and tell everybody about this oil blend because it's epic. How about that?
Okay. So at this point, do we want to read the other testimony? Do we want to go ahead and...
Why don't we talk about the kit and the oils that are in there? If we have time, we could share the other testimony that I really wanted to share, but I don't want to sell short our time on really touching base on this whole collection and why these oils are there and what they're going to do. Okay? Does that work for you?
Okay, and what I would like to do is have you post that other testimony on your blog and at least reserve time for PTSD.
I will.
Okay, so let's
And just a side note, you mentioned PTSD. I just want to say really quick that we're going to be talking about the Reconnecting Kit, which is the one that we're talking about with our kiddos. But, we've heard a common theme throughout here, like the stress and the trauma that the parents go through having a special needs child. And we're not going to talk about it today, but I really want the parents to look at the Freedom Bundle, the Freedom Kit, because I think that we need healing too. And if we're not healing ourselves, we're missing the point. So, and I'll post more about that on my blog and stuff as well. I've said all along that autism parents, special need parents have PTSD as well as the siblings. And so not only do we have a kit that's going to help us with our kids on the spectrum, but we also have another kit that could potentially help us with dealing with our emotions and our trauma and the stress, the amount of stress that we have, and giving us tools to be better parents and caretakers. So that's my little sidebar.
Okay, and what is the name of the PTSD kit?
I'm sorry, what?
What is the name of the PTSD kit?
There's two, so there's a bundle. There's Freedom Sleep. So think about how we heal when we sleep and we can let go of stuff, healing. And then there's a Freedom Release, which is supporting us in healing the trauma from a cellular level. So like I said, I'll post more of that on the blog and my page over the next few weeks. But I really want to focus on the Reconnect Kit today, but I just felt like I needed to touch base on that just real briefly.
Okay, and I think that is so important for you to make that connection with other parents, that you guys are suffering trauma. You're going on 1 to 2 hours of sleep every night, year after year. That takes a toll on the body. The constant energy that you have to expend just to be on hyper alert all the time to make sure that your child is safe. So we encourage you to use Freedom Sleep and a Freedom Release on yourself.
Right.
Okay. We're going to go back to the Reconnect Kit. It contains 4 oils. Reconnect, which is for balancing the left and the right brain, and which you guys have heard that it covers multiple autism symptoms.
Absolutely.
It actually has 15 essential oils in it, so that is a lot more than what we're seeing in brain power, and then cedarwood and lavender, Roman chamomile are only single oils that families are using. So you're getting great synergy there. The In Touch blend is for keeping the child in the present. It contains coconut oil, vetiver, melissa, the Royal Hawaiian sandalwood, which is not available yet except for in these blends, cedarwood, and Idaho blue spruce. And then the last oil is Sleepy Eyes, which contains coconut oil, lavender, geranium, Roman chamomile, tangerine, bergamot, sacred frankincense, valerian, and rue. And as a researcher myself, I'm really impressed with this blend because the rue is going to let go of a bunch of negative energies that just the child stimulated to where they can't even fall asleep. Valerian is a tranquilizer. The tangerine is really soothing the nervous system. That's why we see it in peace and calming. Roman chamomile, I can't tell you what it does, but my kids don't have autism. But I will put 5 drops of that in a water diffuser, and they have these are kids who are jumping on the bed, wrestling, who will settle down in 4 minutes, and then another few minutes of that are just conked out. Jumping up and down, under the covers, on the pillow, and then out. So if I'm trying to get my kids asleep while I'm in the room with them and I'm breathing in that Roman chamomile, oh my gosh, I'm out too. So if I'm wanting to get another 2 hours of work done after they go to bed, I better not be breathing in that Roman chamomile.
That's true. There was a recent study released on Roman chamomile, and I think it was autism and traits and stuff. I'll see if I can dig that up. I couldn't even tell you what it was about, but I know that I have moms in my group that are using it specifically for specific things, and I'll see if I can locate that, and I'll post it on the resources for everybody so we can see what that oil, it's an amazing oil. I agree. But you said that was all. So we have the Reconnect oil, which we've been talking about all day. We have the In Touch, which is really helping the kids to stay in the present and stay grounded and interact with their environment. The sleepy eyes, which you just went over, which is for the sleep and the calming. I'm going to use it for meltdowns as well and see how that works. But then there's a fourth one called Genius, which is really for things like focus and concentration and staying on task, which also has a really long list of ingredients. So I think, again, between all of these blends, there is so much in there doing so much. And I just think that the 4 oils working together work synergistically for everybody.
We're trying to think about the collection of autism stories and what most families generally would be using, something that's like the mainstay in their home. And we came up with Brain Power at $59.75. That's currently here in July of 2014. Peace and Calm, $32.75. Vetiver, $20.75. Cedarwood, $11.25. Rutavalor Roll-On, $31.75. Valor is actually not listed on the website right now, so we're going by memory that this is probably $30. Lavender at $23.50 and Roman Chamomile at $35.50, which is a total of $245.25. Like we said earlier, this is a lot of singles, and then the blends themselves have contained very few singles. So when you spend less money at roughly $200 for the Reconnect Autism Kit, you are getting the synergy of 15 to 18 oils.
In just one blend. Yeah.
That is more likely to have a constituent or oil that is going to cover your child's specific needs. So you don't have to do the trial and error of individual oil. So we want to point out not only the financial value of that, but the value that it has in the peace in your home so that you guys can have your child back and you just simply be a family.
I like that. I think that's really important to emphasize. And I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyways. I have said in the past to my group that with the results that we get in our home, I would pay 100 times what I pay for these oils to be doing what happens. And when we first started, I didn't have that value, and I really didn't know that. I mean, you really have to experience it to understand what the value of this is. But then I followed up with, don't tell Gary I would pay that. Because I just really, when you look at the oils that are in these blends, rose by itself is a $200 wholesale oil, and that's in 2 of these blends. Melissa's the second most costly oil that we have, and it's in these blends. And these are the oils that we have been recommending to our parents anyways, letting them as an option for our kids because they're what have been working in our homes. It's an amazing... just the amount of oils, and there are, like you said, the synergy of them. And we're looking at, some of the more precious oils that are available to us through Young Living.
Okay, we're about to get ready for some question and answer session. I'm going to go to what is being typed in on the TalkShoe chat at this time. In the chat, we have people who are asking you how you use the Reconnect oil. Where did you put it? How often, etc.
Okay. Well, I can tell you guys how I used it, and some of the parents did. Again, I think that it's important to emphasize that everybody's going to have to figure out what works best for their children. I apply them differently to both of my kids because one of my kids has, an aversion to wet stuff on her skin, and the other one doesn't, so it really depends. But for the most part, the Reconnect oil we have been using at night, so the kids are exposed to it while they're sleeping. And we know that when our body sleeps, our body heals. And we did a lot of diffusing, and within the trial time, as we were using it over the past year, we were diffusing it heavily. And by heavily, I mean like maybe 12 drops in the home diffuser a night. We also have put it along the spine, over the brainstem on the back of the neck, and the big toes on the Vita flex point. So any of those ways is some of the things that we were doing. Likes it on the back of her neck and along her spine. And she also takes it internally. Likes to, and might have to help me with this word, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's the Yacon. What's that sweetener that we have? Yacon. Can't remember what it is. But anyway, it's a sweetener that Young Living has, and we've been putting it on a spoon with a couple of drops or a drop of the Reconnect. She likes to take that in the morning before she goes to school.
Yeah,
so, did I say it right? Okay. So diffusing it at night, maybe applying it like a raindrop along the spine is an excellent option, and the brain VitaFlex points on the feet. So I'm going to tell you how I'm using these oils, and then again, you guys have to figure out what's going to work best for your kids, okay? So Reconnect, we're using it at night again, pretty much because my thinking is their body is turned off at night, and they're resting, and I'm going to let their body do what it needs to do with these chemical constituents that are in this blend. And our body also detoxes at night, so I'm allowing whatever the body needs to be doing while they're sleeping. Again, we're diffusing it. We're also, since convention, we introduced Sleepy Eyes, which is in this kit as well as the Kid Sense kit. And for my husband and I, we are putting it on the back of our necks. It seems like one drop is plenty. Sometimes I get 2 drops out, not intentionally. Love, 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 love the aroma. You can really smell the sacred frankincense and the Roman chamomile in this blend. It's an amazing, I can't stop smelling my fingers after I apply it on the kids. This is the first time in 3.5 years that we've been using oils with her that she will lay down and put her feet up and tell me to put them on her feet. She has never, ever, ever done this with an oil, and I just think intuitively she knows that this oil is helping her with the sleep. And with her, I'm rubbing it on her big toes, again, the brain VitaFlex, and just kind of rubbing the rest of it on the bottoms of her feet. And she initiated this, and I just think this is profound, is asking me to rub that oil on her pillow so she can smell it while she sleeps. So we're putting a little bit on her toes and her feet, and then we're putting some on her pillow. Again, different ways that you can be using it. You can diffuse it. I think diffusing it would be really nice. You guys just need to figure out what's going to work best for your kids. Genius, again, that's the one that is for focus, concentration, staying on task. I'm going to start using this one the same way that we've used Brain Power all along. So think brain VitaFlex points, the big toes. Think temples, forehead, back of the neck, aromatically. I'm going to use it in the mornings before they get their day going, and as needed throughout the day. If they seem to be having a hard time struggling in this area, I'm just going to go ahead and reapply and see how that goes. And then the last one in the kit, In Touch, is for helping us to reconnect with our environment. So think about all the stimulation that goes on. If you really listen, I can hear my neighbor mowing their lawn right now. Sorry if you guys hear that background noise. But I can also hear the dog making noises, and the coffee pot is buzzing, and I can hear the clock ticking. For these kids, all of that is so amplified, and it's 100 times louder than what we hear. And they're sensitive to the lights and the noises and the sensations and the smells and people's energies and all that stuff. So this blend is going to help them be more calm and to help their body integrate with their environment, so they're not reverting away from this sensory input, but rather if we can balance them, they can better adjust to it, so they're not going and self-stimming and what I call the brain fog, when they resort back into themselves. So for me, I'm going to use this one in the morning as well, and we're going to layer it with the Genius. So I'm going to put Genius on first and then go ahead and layer this one. I may even use it like White Angelica. We have to play with it. So I may put a couple drops in my hands, and I rub my hands together clockwise a couple of times to activate it, and then just kind of smear it, if you will, kind of rub it all over their body, starting with the crown and going all the way down the body. So almost like a shield, putting it over the entire body. And that actually just came to me, so I'm feeling like that is really what I need to be doing with that one. So that's what we're going to do.
Okay, before I go on to this next question, Gary told you that this Reconnect blends by creating new pathways. So I know in my own personal research, I'm seeing 2 different kinds. Now, of course, I'm not saying those are the only kinds, but I'm seeing 2 different types of autistic kids. We have the ones that have a nervous system that has been damaged, so it's impaired and slow to get back to working. And then I'm seeing those systems that have been damaged to the point that they don't parts of the nervous system aren't working at all. Those nerves are not activating body systems organs and glands the way that they're supposed to.
Right.
So we need some stimulating oils, like peppermint, to get people to go to sleep, or we may need peace and calming for those who are just impaired. And so Gary told you that these actually create new pathways. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm not a chemist. There's my little disclosure. I'm just going to say and I don't even want to say that I'm going to be quoting him because, I hear it and it absorbs, and then I'm trying to reiterate what he said. And if you've listened to Gary, sometimes it's really hard. So my interpretation and my observations of what's happening in my own home is that sometimes, again, remember we talked about autism being triggered by a multitude of different things. I think my children's were triggered by many different things. It wasn't just one thing. And some of the nerves and the cells are damaged, and the pathways just haven't been created. But what we also know is the brain doesn't stop growing at a certain age, and we're constantly making new brain pathways. And my understanding is with the molecules that are in these oils is that, yes, we can probably heal some of the dysfunction, but more importantly, we're supporting the brain in creating those new pathways, and that was profound to me. So if one doesn't work, the body's going to find a new way around it, and to me, that is what's really happening. And I think one of the significant things on one of the phone calls was he was like, if you stop using the oils, you've seen regression, right? And I'm like, no, I haven't. When we started, she was nonverbal, had all these, symptoms going on. And, yeah, we might get a tiny bit regression, but I don't think she's ever going to go back to where she was. If I stop using oils tomorrow, God forbid, I don't think she's going to lose what she's gained, because I think that the body has had the resources and the nutrition and all the stuff that's working has recreated these pathways. And even with her anxiety, this is kind of sneaky, but when we were trying to get her on an IEP for her in school and get her intervention, one of the things that we did was we took her off all of her supplements, her red and the oils, and because I wanted the school system to see what she was like without any support. And she regressed with the anxiety, but she did not go back to where she was, where she wouldn't leave the house, and when she was having severe panic attacks, it didn't go back to there. But some of the paranoia and some of the ritualistic behaviors started to sneak back in. And I think it was around day 45. She was like, Mom, you have to put me back on these oils. I don't even like who I am when I'm without these oils. So we immediately put her back on. And it took about a week, and she went right back to where she was before we had taken her off a month and a half prior. So, yeah, I think you'll get a little bit of a regression, but I don't think it's going to be epic. I don't think it's going to be back to where it was before you began. I think that there is something even more profound on the chemistry level that is actually happening that I just can't even wrap my head around.
That is so impressive. And again, like we said at the beginning of the call, please forgive us for any mistakes that we may say in repeating the way that we have learned it from Gary. So
Right. I'm not quoting him. I'm just reiterating what I interpreted what he was saying to me. So I just want to make that clear. Thank you for saying that.
And the testimonies speak for themselves, though, either way.
They do. And I told Gary, I said, you know what, we really don't need, for me as an autism mom, I don't need the science, I don't need the chemistry. Now, my left brain thinking, I like it, and I devour it, and I read research daily about these oils, daily. But as an autism mom, I don't need it. You know what? The results speak for themselves, and it speaks for the other parents in my group and the other parents in Young Living that are using them. So, you can't, when you know that it's working, you just go with it.
A bunch more questions to get to. And The next one is, do you only use the oils now and Reconnect, or do you continue to use other oils with her?
We only used Reconnect for, I want to say, 6 to 9 months. And then once I reported to Gary the results that we were getting, I started to slowly reintegrate some of the other oils. So I definitely use Valor before I apply any oils. That's my number one. I do that to prime the body and get the body ready to receive the other oils. And she still has issues with constipation every now and then. I'm going to use orange or tangerine digest as a laxative. But for the most part, Reconnect is the primary one that we're using aside the ones that we're using for sleep. But now that we have the sleepy eyes, that seems to be working really well.
Do we know if the oils will be sold individually later on?
I called leadership yesterday to ask them because I want to know that as well. They said right now they're just available in the collection, and they do not know. They didn't have that answer. And the more I was thinking about it last night, the whole kit works synergistically together. So I don't know. I'm not sure if Gary is doing that intentionally or if they'll be available. I guess we'll all find out soon, hopefully sooner than later.
Okay, they said that there was a video shared at convention that had a little girl in it. Was that?
Oh, that was not, but I bawled during it. That was a little girl that was in the work that Diane Weaver and Aries was doing. That was during the Aries presentation. So if you want to know more about that, you can go to Aries and join, and you can actually see that video and the Aries presentation that they did, not associated to Young Living, on the research and stuff that they're doing with autism and the oils.
Okay, and we want to clarify, too, that the study that Aries was doing is completely separate from what Gary was doing, her team.
Yep.
And what we do know from Dr. Nancy Weber, who is on the Aries staff on the board, she has told us that she can't talk about that study because the information is owned by the study. So in a few months that will be published, and if you do want to find the results of that study, you will have to be an Aries member in order to read it.
Correct. That was my understanding as well.
Next question, you mentioned having to rotate oils because they stop working. Are you finding with the Reconnect kit that you still need to rotate?
Absolutely not. That was with sleep, but like I said earlier, I think that one of the struggles that we've had is that she still eats some gluten items, and I think that that's affecting her sleep. It was purely just the sleep. It wasn't any other aspect of what was going on. No, I don't feel like I need to rotate those.
We want to take the next 5 minutes. We don't want to go over 2 hours here.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. What question do you have, or which comment?
I actually missed the first 11 minutes, and so I was just curious on gut health. Did she do a certain protocol on the probiotics, getting a good flora going? Did she try the MindWise, or has she yet?
Okay, ma'am, those are actually content for another call, and no, we did not cover that today. And because we're short on time, we encourage you to go to her Facebook page or to her blog to learn more about that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you for understanding.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody is muted out now. We've got a comment on the chat group that says, thank you so much for sharing your story. It has touched many of our hearts. Lots of thank yous. Perfect. Anybody else who wants to type in comments, we'll read those at this time. We're going to go ahead and close now. If you'll go ahead and tell us the name of your blog and your Facebook page again.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening and being open to our story. So I'm going to be blogging more about what we've done and what we're doing. I've made that commitment to do that and move forward with that. So I will be chronicling, and I will also put up the testimonies I've collected from my group and the moms who have participated in the work that we did over the past year with Gary. And I'm on Facebook, as those of you know me, quite often, and that's a really good place to connect with me. And then you can watch our story unfold on the blog.
You are truly called to do this. You're not only sharing your knowledge about the oils, but you're also reaching out to the community and making sure that single moms have a house, that they're getting money, that their cars are being repaired, that they're getting connections to job opportunities. And you mourn and you cry for those children who wander off into bodies of water and drown themselves.
I know. Well, thank you. What do I say? I really feel like I am, as much as sometimes autism really stinks and it's horrible and it's hard, it's also been a really big blessing. And I feel that God blessed us with our journey and our story and what we're doing so we could go impact other parents. And that's why my husband and I decided to be so vocal about it. And, I just have so much gratitude for everything that we've been able to accomplish so far. So I'm excited about what this whole year is going to unfold for everybody that this message ripples out to. So thank you.
Your story will be such a blessing and will help so many children and families. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks to all parents, grandparents of special needs kids.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are welcome. We're glad that you're here today, and we encourage you to share this exact link. Don't go to TalkShoe, but this exact link for this call, and share it with as many hundreds of people that you could give access
Absolutely.
to. That is the purpose today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having this format for me. I appreciate it for the kids.
Anything for you, girl. All right, let's say goodbye.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you for tuning in.
Bye, guys.